1919 Velie 3.5-Ton truck. Welcome back to One Vehicle, the channel where we explore the history, power, and innovation of some of the most iconic vehicles from the past, present, and future. If you're passionate about cars, trucks, and everything that moves on wheels, then you're in the right place. Today, we are diving into a truly special piece of automotive history. We're going back more than a century to 1919 to discover the story of the Velie 3.5-Ton truck, a machine that represents not just an old vehicle but a symbol of an era when the world was shifting from horse-drawn carriages to the dominance of motorized transport. So buckle up and join me as we take this journey back in time to understand why the 1919 Velie 3.5-Ton truck was such an important part of trucking history. To appreciate this truck, we first need to understand the time it was born into. The year was 1919. The world was just recovering from the devastating years of the First World War. Industries across Europe and the United States were racing to rebuild economies, expand infrastructure, and meet the growing needs of urbanization. People and goods had to move faster, more efficiently, and over longer distances than ever before. Horse-drawn wagons were becoming outdated, and the demand for durable, motorized trucks was higher than it had ever been. That's where companies like Velie stepped in. Though not as famous today as Ford, Chevrolet, or Mack, Velie was one of the many ambitious names experimenting with trucks during this transformative period. The Velie 3.5-Ton truck was designed as a heavy-duty vehicle meant to carry significant loads compared to the smaller delivery trucks of its era. The name, 3.5-Ton, refers to its rated capacity of 3.5 tons, which made it a reliable workhorse for industries like construction, farming, and urban delivery. This wasn't just a simple wagon with an engine strapped to it, this was a carefully engineered piece of machinery built for strength and endurance. One of the most fascinating things about the 1919 Velie truck was its engine. At the heart of the 3.5-Ton was a gasoline-powered inline four-cylinder engine, which was fairly advanced for its time. It wasn't about high speed or performance thrills like sports cars we see today, it was about torque, durability, and the ability to pull heavy loads over dirt roads, cobblestone streets, and sometimes even muddy countryside paths. The engine was paired with a manual transmission that offered drivers the control needed for slow climbs, heavy hauls, and long-distance reliability. These trucks weren't easy to drive by modern standards. Operating a 1919 Velie required strength, skill, and patience. The steering was heavy, braking systems were primitive compared to today's hydraulics, and drivers often had to know how to repair and adjust their trucks on the go. Design-wise, the 1919 Velie 3.5-Ton truck carried the rugged, no-nonsense appearance typical of early industrial trucks. Its frame was made of heavy steel, designed to take punishment without bending or breaking. The wooden cargo bed was large and open, meant to carry everything from lumber to sacks of grain or manufactured goods. The front featured a tall radiator grille, with exposed headlights mounted on brackets, and large spoked wheels wrapped in thick, solid rubber or early pneumatic tires. Suspension systems were basic, often using leaf springs, which meant rides were rough and bumpy, but the goal wasn't comfort, it was reliability. Now, why was this truck so important? Well, in 1919, trucks like the Velie 3.5-Ton were changing the world of logistics and commerce. Before this, most goods were moved by railroads or horse-drawn wagons. While trains were efficient, they were limited to fixed routes. Trucks provided flexibility. A company could load up a Velie truck at a factory and deliver goods directly to shops, warehouses, or even rural customers without relying on the train schedule. This kind of flexibility is something we take for granted today, but back then it was revolutionary. The Velie truck and others like it were helping to decentralize transportation, making delivery more personal, faster, and more adaptable. Another thing worth noting is the cultural significance of trucks like the Velie. In the post-war era, trucks became symbols of progress, rebuilding, and modern industry. Farmers saw them as essential tools to move harvests to markets quickly. Construction workers used them to transport heavy equipment and materials to job sites. Cities relied on them for deliveries of food, coal, and manufactured products. The 1919 Velie truck might not have been the most glamorous vehicle, but it played a role in literally building the modern world. Let's talk about performance for a moment. The Velie 3.5-Ton was not fast by any means. Top speeds often didn't exceed 25 to 30 miles per hour, and that was considered impressive for a loaded truck at the time. But what it lacked in speed, it made up for in sheer pulling power. The truck's drivetrain and gearing were optimized for carrying loads, not racing down the highway. Its brakes were mechanical, often requiring strong legs to bring the heavy vehicle to a halt, especially when loaded. Drivers of these trucks often shared stories about how demanding it was to operate them for long distances, but at the same time, they admired the reliability and endurance. Many Velie trucks worked day in and day out for years without giving up. If we look at the competitive landscape in 1919, Velie was up against names like Mack, GMC, and early versions of International Harvester. These companies had strong reputations and larger production capacities. Velie may not have been as big, but its 3.5-Ton truck found loyal users because it delivered what it promised, a sturdy, dependable, medium-duty workhorse. Sadly, as time went on, Velie, like many smaller automotive companies of the early 20th century, struggled to keep up with the larger manufacturers who had better resources, larger factories, and more advanced designs. By the 1920s and 1930s, many of these smaller brands either disappeared, merged, or were overshadowed by giants like Ford, Chevrolet, and Mack. But the legacy of the Velie 3.5-Ton remains as a reminder of the pioneering spirit of that era. For truck enthusiasts and historians today, the 1919 Velie 3.5-Ton is a rare gem. Surviving examples are extremely difficult to find, and if you do come across one, it's usually in a museum or in the collection of a dedicated vintage truck enthusiast. Restoring one of these trucks is no easy task either. Finding original parts is nearly impossible, so restorers often have to fabricate components from scratch or adapt parts from other vehicles of the era. But for those who love history, bringing a 1919 Velie back to life is like reviving a piece of the early industrial age. Imagine for a moment being a driver in 1919, climbing into the seat of a Velie 3.5-Ton truck. The cab would be basic, with a hard wooden bench seat, minimal instrumentation, and levers and pedals that felt crude by modern standards. You'd crank the engine by hand to start it, listening to the rumble of that four-cylinder motor come alive. As you rolled forward, you'd feel every bump in the road through the solid suspension, and you'd grip a massive steering wheel to guide the truck. There was no power steering, no air conditioning, no radio, just you, the machine, and the open road ahead. And yet, for many drivers of that era, it was a liberating feeling. They were no longer limited to the speed of a horse or the tracks of a railroad. They were part of a new age of freedom and mobility. So when we look back at the 1919 Velie 3.5-Ton truck today, we see more than just an old machine. We see a story of ambition, progress, and transformation. We see how trucks helped shape the modern economy and connected people in ways that were never possible before. This truck might not make headlines like a flashy sports car or a luxury limousine, but its role in history is just as important, if not more so. Here at One Vehicle, we love to highlight not just the glamorous cars and trucks but also the unsung heroes like the Velie 3.5-Ton. Without vehicles like this, the transportation systems we rely on today wouldn't exist. It's a reminder that every step in automotive history, no matter how small, played a role in building the world we know. If you've enjoyed this journey into the past and want to see more stories about legendary and forgotten vehicles alike, make sure to subscribe to One Vehicle, hit the like button, and share this video with your fellow car and truck enthusiasts. From historic machines like the 1919 Velie to futuristic models of tomorrow, we'll continue exploring the vehicles that move the world. Thank you for watching, and until next time, keep your wheels turning and your passion for vehicles alive.